What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're doing well. So let's start off with a couple of things. One is, I think, is good news, depending on who you ask. It's good or bad news. The second thing is good or bad news, depending on who you talk to. And the third thing is definitely bad news. But when it comes to sports, first thing, ESPN and Major League Baseball are mutually agreeing to opt out of their contract. They are parting ways after the season, so ESPN will no longer broadcast MLB after the season. I think this is the right thing to do. Their broadcasts are so bad. I don't even remember who the freaking broadcasters are now. I think it's, what was it, that Scourging with A-Rod. At one point, they had Jessica Mendoza on there, and she was nauseating to listen to. A-Rod, he knows baseball somewhat okay. Actually, no, I don't even think he's on that broadcast anymore. I can't even tell you who. Oh, that's right. It's Eduardo Perez, who is just horrible. If Eduardo Perez says the word, spin right and launching one more time, I'm going to jump through my TV and punch him in the face. And, Vasgersian's the play-by-play guy. He's got the perfect voice for play-by-play, and I like him, but just that broadcast overall is just really bad. And most of the time, they're just talking about, all these weird, analytics stuff that no one cares about, and there's other stuff. And, I remember late in the season last year, the Mets were playing someone that had, on, the side, they had, all, this, analytical stuff. It was, getting in the way. It was so annoying. I took a picture of it, sent it to my dad. I was like, what the hell is this? I almost turned off the Mets game, not because anything with the Mets, just because it was unwatchable. But thankfully, they will no longer be broadcasting MLB games after the season, because their broadcasts have gotten really bad. Second thing is a two-parter. Both have to do with the Yankees. First of all, the Yankees extend their manager, Aaron Boone, for 2 more years through 2027. I really don't get what they're expecting to get with this guy. Yes, he wins a lot of games in the regular season. I would have done the same thing with those rosters that he's been given. He's, obviously they won the World Series last year, but despite he's only made 1 World Series appearance with this team, and he's been there since 2018. This will be his 8th season with the Yankees. I saw a stat against non-AL Central teams, the Yankees are very below average when it comes to their record in the postseason. I think over the last 10 years or something like that. So he's not the worst manager ever, but he's just not a World Series winning manager. That's what the Yankees need right now. I don't know why they are sit on just continually running back year after year after year. They should have fired him 4 years ago. To me, it's like Jason Garrett. It's like, this has got to be the year, right? They fire the commissioner again just for every year. Nope, they bringing him back. They're going to extend him. And it took that really bad 7-win season when they should have won probably 12 games to get him fired. And at this point, I think they're just going to keep trying with him. I mean, the American League is very weak. The Yankees are going to cakewalk to at least the LCS and have a shot going to the World Series again. So they figured maybe that's part of it, but I don't understand why they think of him so highly. His decision-making and in-game managing is just not good enough. Also, the Yankees, they altered their facial hair policy, so it's been a topic of discussion recently. Obviously, you saw Devin Williams, who had obviously a pretty scruffy beard in Milwaukee. Gets traded to the Yankees, looks like a different person. You've seen guys a guy like Johnny Damon, who had that crazy beard in Boston, and he goes to the Yankees and had to shave it. Garrett Cole had a pretty big beard in Houston. He goes to the Yankees, he had to shave it. It's been a topic of discussion. They have altered after many, many years. Their owner, Hal Steinbrenner, put out a statement saying you could have well-groomed beards. Also, I love how it's not even oh yeah, it's gone. It's well-groomed beards. So if your beards are perfectly trimmed, it still doesn't count. But I always thought it was stupid. I don't get the points. Why can't you have beards? I don't know why that's such a big deal. But at least they changed it. Also, you got to remember, in today's day and age, it's 2025, especially when you got these young 22, 20, 24-year-olds. They got all their jewelry, and they got all this stuff on them that they think they look cool. And, you're going to have, with all, these new sponsors, you're going to have, young athletes pretty soon are going to continue to have, sponsorship deals with, hair products and face products. I can't not have a beard and be partnered with, some sort of razor company. So They need to change it. This was long overdue. And it was the stupidest rule to me I've ever seen. But thankfully they're changing it for the better. And last thing, definitely bad news. Really for all sports fans. Centennial Spurs star center Victor Wembanyama. He's got blood clots in his shoulder. It's like a deep vein and some long doctor's term that I can't pronounce, but it's blood clots in his shoulder. He's going to be out for the season. That really is a shame. I've never seen anything like Victor Wembanyama. Guy's 7'4" and can dribble. He can shoot. He does everything. He's an incredible player. I thought should have started the All-Star game this year. Thankfully, he did make the All-Star game this year. I really hope this doesn't hurt him long term. I am not a doctor. I'm a sports media major, not a doctor or anything like that. But blood clots is very serious. We've seen guys have to retire because of blood clots, maybe not necessarily in their shoulder, but Chris Bosh career was cut a little bit short because he had blood clots. So it's a very serious thing. So I hope he gets whatever work he needs to get done and makes a full recovery for next season, which the Spurs said they do expect him to do. But don't rush the guy back. He's still, 22, 23 years old. Person with a really bright future. You made that move to get De'Aaron Fox. You got pieces like Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sochin and Kelvin Johnson over there. I'm not sure if he'll be on the team next year because he's at the end of his career, but Chris Paul has been a good veteran leader for the Spurs this year. But Wembanyama has been shut down for the season. You never know. I mean, right now they're kind of like hanging in there in the play-in, right around the play-in. They're probably going to not completely bottom out, but they will, I'm sure, regress. And they definitely want to make the playoffs now, especially with how good the West is. Even the play-in looks a little bit like a stretch at this point, but worst case, maybe they get another high pick and draft another high tool player. But just please don't get the first pick, because if they get Cooper Flagg, the league's done. If the Spurs somehow just finagle their way into the first pick, good God, I really hope that he's okay. I really do hope that he's okay. But best of luck to Victor Wembanyama. Four Nations final was last night. Canada defeated the United States 3-2 in overtime last night. That was a phenomenal game. One of the best hockey games I've watched in a long time. The atmosphere was crazy. Of course, it was in Boston. The Canadians took the lead at first with the goal by Nathan McKinnon in the first period, and then Brady Tkachuk, ties on the rebound later in the period, second period. Jake Sanderson puts in the rebound to go up 2-1, but in the late in the period, Sam Bennett scores to tie it up, and then third period, back and forth, no score, and then Connor McDavid, just being the best player in hockey that he is, scores the game-winning goal for Canada. That guy is just incredible. Yeah, people don't forget, on top of that, he's just amazing. He every year he gives you 40, 50 goals, 120 points. The guy's just great. He's clutch and everything like that. He's got great size. He's used his size to his advantage. He's also the fastest player in the league. It's just like he's won like the fastest skating contest, like in the NHL All-Star stuff they used to have every year. People realize he's also super fast. He's not a small guy. He is just a special player. Best player in hockey for a reason. He's probably has a shot to win another MVP. It would be like his fourth of his career, so at least his third, something like that. But great game. Out which the Americans won. A couple decisions I don't know. I love Chris Kreider as a Ranger fan. I don't know why you put him in the lineup and scratched him in place of Kyle Connor. I get they had some injuries, but Matthew Tkachuk got hurt in the game against Sweden, and he played the game, but then after the 3 or 4 minute mark of the second period, didn't play. He was clearly hurt. We shouldn't have even had him out there. I get they had some injuries. Charlie McAvoy ended up coming out with major injury, so he did not play in the game. We tried to bring Quinn Hughes up to the team, and he was also going through an injury that he had right before the break, so he's still not cleared. So that didn't work out. First of all, if he wasn't hurt, he would have been on the team to begin with, because he's probably the top 5 defenseman in hockey. He would have definitely been on the team to begin with. So they ended up having to go, I think, to Brett Pesky, who is a good player. So they ended up bringing him in. And then Trocheck, I think, got hurt. He broke his finger, which is a shame as a Ranger fan. And then Kreider might have got nicked up, or they just didn't play him. But I don't know why they sacked Kyle Connor. He's a better player at this point in his career than Chris Kreider. I don't know why that happened. That was kind of a silly move. But Canada picked up the win. Obviously, getting Cam McCarr back was definitely a huge piece for them. He's the best defenseman in all of hockey. And Jordan Binnington, on the Blues Cup run, he was key, but he has not been great since then. That might be the best he's played since their Cup run a couple of years ago. He made so many huge saves in that overtime, and even in the third period, he played a hell of a game. And Canada wins for 3-2, and what a tournament that was. NHL did a really good job with this tournament, for sure. And I hope to see it continue. We got the Olympics in Italy next year in 2026. We'll be in Italy. Can't wait for that. And then hopefully, and they're doing the World Cup of Hockey in a couple of years again. So hopefully we get more best on best U.S. versus Canada, because if we're gonna get that all the time, sign me the heck up. Let's get into my NFL off-season series. I'm going to continue that, and I have one small thing to talk about right afterwards. But we're going to start today with the Cincinnati Bengals. So Bengals this year, disappointing, 9-8, missed the playoffs for the second year in a row. Obviously had some issues. They have a lot of decisions to make in the offseason. With T. Higgins hitting the market, Trey Hendrickson wants an extension, Chase wants an extension. You got to obviously keep Joe Burrow happy, but they have a lot of money to play with. They have like $6 million in cap space, so I do think they're gonna tag T. Higgins. But I'll get to that in a minute. I think they should let go of Sam Hubbard. They don't really need to create cap space because they're far enough under the cap, but Hubbard hasn't been a major factor in a couple of years. Like a few years ago, he had like 8 or 9 sacks. It looked like he was on the cusp of breaking out. Hasn't really happened. Only had 2 sacks last year. You can save like $9 million if you cut him. I think that's a pretty to me, it's an obvious move, to be honest. And then moves I think they should make. They have to address this defense. This defense was maybe the worst in the league last year. Joe Burrow had to score 40 points every week just to give the team a chance. And they can start on the defensive line. Henderson's really their only legit edge rusher, and he's incredible. Led the league in sacks last year. He's a phenomenal player. One of the best edge rushers in all of football. But they need some help. I would go after Chase Young. I think that's a good idea. Give him a 1-year deal for $10-11 million. Obviously, Chase is an interesting case. He was a very high touted prospect coming out of Ohio State. Looked like a superstar in the making. Was defensive rookie of the year his first year. And ever since he tore his ACL in his second season, he has not been the same player. But was a little bit better with the Saints last year. Had like 5 or 6 sacks. Still not what he was coming out of college, but was a little bit better. This is a guy, obviously, he was in the year before. He's finished the year in San Francisco and was kind of a ghost, so he looked a little better. If he can continue this path, maybe he can get back to where he once was. He's still not that old. He was only drafted like 5 years ago. So it's not like he's at the end of his career. He's still probably 26, 27 years old. Bring him in on a 1-year deal. Trey Henderson is so elite. You don't really need you don't trade for Myles Garrett. So you just need like a solid guy like that. And another piece they should bring in, I think, is DJ Jones. Both their D tackles from last year, BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins, are free agents. So I'm not sure. They can maybe look to bring those guys back, but I also think they should try and make as many changes as they can on the defensive side of the ball. They're changing coordinators, of course. Thankfully, they got Lou Romo out of there. Al Golden from Notre Dame takes the same position he had in Notre Dame with the Cincinnati Bengals as the defensive coordinator. Jones, he was with the Broncos last year. He's a very good run stuffer. Not much for the pass rusher, but he's a very good run stuffer. I think he'll really help the Bengals in the middle. Go and bring him in. And then going to the secondary, they have 2 good corners I think are pretty good. They were pretty good last year in Cam Taylor-Britt and Daxton Hill. Daxton Hill was a first rounder a few years ago. Taylor-Britt was a second rounder. I think either in the same draft or the year after. Before last year, they really hadn't made much of an impact. We're better last year for sure. I think, now that they continue to develop, and with maybe some better coaching on my side of the ball, I think they could continue to only get better. But safety, ever since they got rid of Jesse Bates and Von Bell, Von Bell came back last year, but he was not the same player. Their safety's been a major hole on this team, and Jesse Bates has become a first-team All-Pro in Atlanta ever since he left Cincinnati. They should have called up the money to bring him back. I think they should sign Justin Reed. He'll be pretty expensive. Definitely north of $15 million a year, most likely, but he's a very good safety. Did with the Chiefs the last 3 years. He's a very, very good player. He's solid in coverage, very good against the run. He's a good safety if you bring him in, and also that helps out the 2 young corners as well, having a solid veteran safety like that. On the other move I have them making, well, first, I do have them franchising T. Higgins. I'm not sure what will happen with that. I don't see him playing on a tag after all the trade rumors that he caused last year. I think they will either try and work out a long-term deal, or they will have to trade him. I'm leaning for them to have to trade him, because remember, Jamar Chase is going to get some sort of extraordinary contract. They're paying Joe Burrow a crap ton of money. He's got a $234 million extension that's kicking in pretty soon. So he's making over $46 million next year. Chase is already making $21 million. Now he's, I heard he could get up to $40 million, which is just absurd for a receiver, though he is the best receiver in the league right now, and he's an insanely good talent. So he will definitely get north of $30 million a year for sure. If Higgins might get $30 million, he will get at least $35. Jamar Chase. So they'll tag Higgins for sure. I'm not sure what will happen from there, but I think they should make a move on the offensive line. Their line isn't horrible. It's serviceable. Could definitely be a lot better. However, I think they do need to improve it just because you have a guy in Joe Burrow. On top of that, he's obviously a franchise quarterback. He's had some injury concerns in the past. He tore the ACL in his rookie year. 2 years ago, he had the broken wrist. So he's dealt with injuries in the past. You got to keep him healthy. You're paying him a lot of money for a long time. They have drafted a couple of guys in recent years. You drafted Amarius Mims last year in the first round. He wasn't great, but got to give him some time for sure. Orlando Brown's a really good left tackle. Karras is pretty good in the middle. Guard to me is a big weakness. One of your guard spots is Alex Kappa, who's really good. The other spot is Cordell Volson, who was not very good last year. You can definitely upgrade over him. Go and get Dalton Risner. Risner is a veteran. He's been around for a while. He started in Denver, was in Minnesota last year. He's a solid guard, especially in pass protection. He's not a very good run blocker, but he's very good in pass protection. Cincinnati's a pass-first team for sure, with Joe Burrow and Chase and all those weapons that you have. So sign him. Won't break the bank. Give him a 2-year deal, probably maybe $6 million a year, like $10-12 million. So that's what I would do if I was the Cincinnati Bengals. Next team up is the Cleveland Browns. I don't know where to start with the Cleveland Browns. They are in a horrible situation. Deshaun Watson is due north of $72 million next year. I don't know if he's going to play a game because he tore his Achilles again. First of all, how do you tear your Achilles when you're not doing anything? It was after the regular season. They obviously didn't make the playoffs. It was like during the playoffs, so it's like the offseason hasn't even started yet. Like, what were you doing? How to tear your Achilles again? Like, what did you do? Look, maybe it's just karma, and if it is, I can't say that he didn't have it coming, but I assume you all know what I mean by that. But just the Browns did this to themselves. I don't know how Andrew Barry has a job. I didn't realize how bad of a situation they were in. Then I looked at the salaries and the roster. I was like, wow, they have nowhere to go. But they do need to retool Watson's contract. I know they did something to. They put like some insurance policies in that deal because God forbid they're on the hook for like $150 million, and if the guy just can't play anymore, they can't cripple their franchise forever. But if you retool his deal, you convert some of his money into bonus and add some void years, you will save like $35 million against the cap. They need to do that. They need to do something like that, because otherwise they're going to be almost $30 million over the cap. And you have a roster that is just aging, isn't that good anymore. You're in a competitive division. You come in $30 million over the cap. You have to do something. So you do that. Also, I would retool Denzel Ward's deal as well. Again, you gotta get under the cap. He's an all-pro corner, but you gotta get under the cap. From there, they have to trade Myles Garrett. I get he's probably the best defensive player in football. He's amazing. Might be a Hall of Famer. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year, but he doesn't want to be there. And like, I'm not a fan of athletes requesting trade. I think if you sign a contract, you should honor it. But it's kind of like a Saquon Barkley situation to where, like, he gave them everything he had, and in return, the Browns spat in his face. They've given him nothing. I would want to probably leave too. So, trade him. I think they should be able to get a great return for him. I mean, the Browns front office, I don't trust them for a second. I mean, Andrew Bear, the GM, put this roster on paper, and it's just brutal. And their ownership has just been dreadful for just centuries, it feels like, at this point. But get him out of there. You should be able to get a first-round pick back for him. Get like maybe a 1, a 3, and a 4 next year. It's kind of what I thought of they could possibly get. Gives you now, on top of the second pick this year, you have another first-round this year. You get yourself an extra third. You know, there's an extra pick to whoever you want, and then you throw in an extra mid-rounder next year. Get as much as you can for the guy. And then going forward, they're really handicapped what they can do. They're going to be drafting probably second or third again next year. I'm telling you right now, because they are screwed. Jameis Winston is not under contract. Not that he's a world beater anyway. He's funny, but not exactly the best quarterback. He might throw for a bunch of yards, but he will throw a lot of interceptions as well, and then say a bunch of funny quotes. I think Kirk Cousins will be the Cleveland Browns quarterback next year. He's going to get let go. It'll be like another Russell Wilson situation because Atlanta's on the hook for like a huge debt cap, and they're still paying him. He'll probably want to take a cheap 1-year deal. I don't know what he has left. He's going to be like 38 years old next year, torn Achilles in the rearview mirror. He was really bad down the stretch last year. However, he said he was playing through a bunch of injuries. Maybe if he goes in healthy this year, second year of a torn Achilles, the injuries that he was battling last year, if he puts those in the rearview mirror, maybe he can play like he did in the beginning of the year last year, which he did play pretty well. So maybe he won't be too bad, but he's obviously not a long-term answer anyway at this point. But that's, I think, the best he can do. To be honest, I mean, you're screwed with Deshaun Watson not knowing if he's going to play this year, and if he does, like, might be a worse football team if he does play. So, bring him in on a 1-year deal. That won't cost you a lot of money. This whole line, they've just aged. Like Joe Blatoni and White Tower, those two guards used to be all pros. They're both older now. Now, they're not the same. They both aren't great run blockers anymore. Browns have been a run-first team for a long time. It doesn't make any sense. But, like, they're also on big contracts, so it's kind of going to be hard to move them. Same thing with Jack Conklin. This off the line is terrible, but left tackle is the only spot that's, like, open, technically. So, I think Cornelius Lucas would make a lot of sense. Give him a 1-year deal, $10 million. He had a good year in Washington last year. He gives you something on that line. And then, other than that, again, they're very handicapped what they can do. They're going to have a lot of draft picks, which will help a little bit. I thought maybe Mike Hughes, maybe bring him in. Their cornerbackers last year were Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson. They were horrible. I would sign Mike Hughes probably to like a multi-year deal. Shouldn't be more than $7 or $8 million a year. Former first-round pick by Minnesota, who hasn't really worked out, but had a better year in Atlanta last year, played pretty well. Bring him in. They'll give you something. You have two solid safeties in Thornhill and Grant Delpit, so give you something. I mean, I still don't think you have another one receiver. You don't really have a running back. Their quarterback is a 38-year-old guy whose legs don't really work anymore. The Browns are screwed. The Browns are just shame because they were just starting to really put together a really good team. Even though the whole stuff with Baker Mayfield, like, oh, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? You still had a good roster on paper. If you just can fix the quarterback issue, whether it was with Baker or somebody else, you had a chance to finally put something together. And then you give $230 million guaranteed to Deshaun Watson. And you got 3 first-round picks for a guy who you didn't know was going to play it down ever again because of the off-the-field stuff. That's when it comes to worst trades in sports history, it's probably either the Luka trade, it's the Paul George Shai trade, and this trade. This is definitely the worst trade in NFL history to me. I mean, the Herschel Wall trade is pretty close because the Vikings just handed the Cowboys 3 Super Bowls, basically. But this might take the cake because it's wow. Just wow. Bad. And the last team we're going to cover is the Houston Texans. We're going to cover them now. So they last year didn't take a step forward we thought, but still won 10 games, still won their division, and did win a playoff game. They come in with their almost not even $1 million under the cap. So they got to play around with some contracts. I think those two should be Larry Tunsil and Nico Collins. Those two guys are definitely worth their contracts, but you can save a lot of money if you retool those. You can create over $25 million in cap space, give you a little bit of money to help you on the offensive side of the ball. That offensive line was horrible this year for the Houston Texans. They were absolutely terrible, dealing with a lot of injuries. Their tackles are pretty good. Tunsil's a great left tackle. Tikas Howard had a good year last year. The interior was an absolute disaster. A lot of injuries. Guys, you play basically musical chairs. Shaq Mason, one of your guards, is getting older. He's still serviceable. The rest of it was really ugly. Kenyon Green from a first-round pick is a complete whiff. He's been horrible. Drew Scruggs hasn't been great. I know he's been kind of moving between center and guard. So I do think if maybe they pick a position for him, he could be pretty good, but they need to upgrade. The window is open now. They have to capitalize. So they got to address that. First guy that has him signing is Will Hernandez. He had a good year in Arizona last year. He's a solid guard. Was really bad with the Giants, but another guy who left the Giants organization and got a lot better. He was good in Arizona last year. Give him like a 2-year deal for $13 million. And then they need a better center. I think Coleman Shelton, who was one of the lone bright spots on the otherwise rough Bears offensive line. I think Caleb Williams made that line look worse than it actually is because he holds on to the ball like he's reading the newspaper. No, he's like, oh, not a care in the world. And he wonders why he was sacked 68 times last year. So Coleman Shelton, again, probably a 2-year deal. Shouldn't be more than probably $450 million. Won't break the bank. Give yourself 2 solid offensive linemen. That should help, really revamp that line, and hopefully they stay healthy. They also need one more receiver. Stephon Diggs is going to hit the open market. Don't see him coming back. And Tank Dell probably going to miss the entire season with that really nasty leg injury. Remember, it's 2 years in a row he had a season-ending leg injury. I think DeAndre Hopkins could be in for a reunion with DeAndre Hopkins. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's much older now. He's 33 to 34 years old, but he's not the player he once was, but he's still a solid second or third receiver, if you ask me. At the worst thing, he's a solid third receiver. That's what real Houston needs. Remember, they could draft one in the first round. I think first round, you got to go offensive line or wide receiver. I don't see how else you go. You have plenty of firepower on the defensive side of the ball. You have a defensive-minded head coach who's really good at what he does in D'Amico Ryans, so I don't see why you need to go defense in the first round. I think they're going offense in the first round for sure. Bring in Hopkins on a 1-year deal, probably for $10 or $12 million, and after that, that division is so bad. They're going to own it for a long time. Indy is a mess. Jacksonville is a complete mess. And who else is over there? It's Houston, Indy, Jacksonville, and just whoever else is over there is just beyond horrible. And the Tennessee Titans, they're not good either. They have a couple of pieces, but they are just kind of a mess too. So there's no reason why the Texans can't win the division for at least the next presidential term. So they should be in good shape. And I'm going to save that last thing I was going to cover. It's kind of weird. It's because something to do with Sacred Heart, so I'm a little bit concerned about covering it, actually. So I'm going to hold off on that, actually, for now. I'm going to close up the show now. That's all I got for you guys today. Be back probably Tuesday. Probably won't do a show Monday. Probably Tuesday next time you will see me. But until next time, so long. Have a great day.